So we're going over the W's of customer service. I am a BMET 3 over at Nationwide Children's Hospital as part of TrimedX. Now the W's, why, what, when, where, how. Yeah, how starts with an H. I can't spell, but there was a theme. We were trying to go with that. So who am I and why am I up here talking to you? So in my very crooked career path, I was at a tissue diagnostic team. We led our team to be #1 for 2 years in a row out of the country. Once upon a time, I managed an oil change operation, and we went from one of the worst performers in the Columbus, Ohio market to one of the top 10 in the state, and managed a couple of copy print shops, among other jobs, because I've had a lot of others, but these are ones that really kind of helped me develop the customer service skills. With the oil change store, we had to compete with a person who was 2 doors down, who was significantly cheaper than us. I couldn't alter my pricing. I could not alter the services that we offered or the recommendations we made. And initially I was very upset. I'm like, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna compete with this person? The only tool that I had was customer service. So that led me to kind of turn my brain around and go, okay, we have to demonstrate the value of what we're doing and why we're more expensive. With the tissue diagnostic team, kind of the same thing. It was an internal competition with all the other teams. We did well enough that our second year, I got to be part of the Premier Performance Club and go down to the Cayman Islands. Now, that only happened because I was part of a very great team of high performers, but our difference was we came together as a team and tried to demonstrate what would make us different, what would set us apart. So let's start with the why, because without the why, nothing else really kind of sticks in our brain. In HTM land, we have many opportunities to work on our technical knowledge, and that's usually the first thing that comes to mind is we need to sharpen our technical skills. We need to add to our technical skills. But in addition to that, we have our administrative tasks. Now, as individual performers, that means filling out your work orders, managing your inventory, time. If you're managing a department, that means working on schedules, that means working on budgets, and so on. The first two topics will be great as far as if you're bench tech, but we're not. We're in front of customers. We have to interact with all these departments a considerable amount of time. So that's where the customer service end comes from it. And I'm going to walk in front of this because I want to make sure I'm addressing my notes. Rule of 10, this used to be for every bad experience that a customer had, they were going to tell 10 people. Conversely, if it's going to take you probably 10 opportunities to overcome that one bad experience. Now, on the flip side, if you have a very good experience, typically a customer is going to tell 2 or 3 people. It's not as big of a deal, and that's because if you get into the neuroscience part of it, our brains are wired to really be attracted to the negative, and we kind of tend to focus on that a lot. And so that's why we have, we want to make sure that this is something that we pay attention to. Of course, in social media, it's probably now the rule of hundreds and the rule of thousands, because if you get on social media and say, hey, I had a really terrible experience here, everybody's going to know about it. Or all of your friends, I should say. Now, in the hospital setting or in a healthcare setting, they're probably not going to blast it on social media, but you can bet people will talk. And if they've had a bad interaction with your department, they're going to complain about it to somebody. We're also going to focus on our customer service skills because If our department heads, nurses, managers are happy, they will be happier to see us. And when they're happier to see us, they're more likely to share more information with us. That's going to be great when it comes down to pumps broke versus, hey, I was trying to set this on the counter, didn't quite fit, and I kind of knocked it over. Great. If I'm going to repair that, that gives me more information to go from. And I appreciate that you let me know what was going on. Contract renewal time. If you work for an independent service organization, you can bet when it comes time to renew contracts, all the other independent service organizations are going to be up there with their flags, waving all the numbers and how they're going to be so much better than your organization is. What's going to set you apart? What's going to set you apart is having department heads be on your team and, you know, telling the C-suite the value of your services. If you work for an in-house department, you're not free from this because the independent service organizations are knocking on your door. They're going to be talking to the CFO, we're going to be talking to the C-suite and saying, hey, we're going to do this cheaper. Maybe. Let them be cheaper, but you want to demonstrate why you're better. Additionally, doing this, we will build up our Goodwill bank account. The Goodwill bank account we're going to need because then we can make withdrawals when it's can't get a repair done on time, whether it means parts are on back order or we don't know what's going on and I got to call the manufacturer and find out what the heck is going on. Anything where it's going to be a big delay. So if we need additional time to address it, again, maybe we need to work out some issues with the service contract because that somebody let that lapse. Or when it comes time to find equipment, we've got the gentleman next door who's going to be talking about the whole C&L process. By the way, I say C&L, I know that's probably just the term that we use in our department. I don't know if the other departments use it or others, but okay, good to know. But it's a lot easier when you're trying to find equipment, if you've developed that relationship. You can then go up to the department head and say, hey, trying to find X, Y, and Z. Can you help with that? They're more likely to assist you with that than if you've not built up that relationship. Because if you've not built up the relationship, they're going, sorry, man, I'm busy. That's exactly what you're trying to avoid here. So we wanted to ask, what is good service? Oh, the joke I like to make is it's kind of like that Supreme Court case where the judge said, well, I don't know what pornography really is, but I know it when I see it. We don't want to leave customer service up to, I'm not sure what it is, but we know it when we see it, right? We want to be able to kind of, let's build a framework around that. And not only just for ourselves, so we know what we're trying to accomplish, but for the rest of our team. We want our team to be very consistent. That's the only way I mean, I can be a good employee mechanic at Ford, but if everybody else is crap, the likelihood that I'm going to have a job 5 years on the road is pretty small, unless everybody else ups their game as well. So let's do some audience participation. Who can give an example of good customer service? Go ahead.
Fixing the person, fixing the customer, along with fixing the equipment. Clear, concise communication from start to finish, so there's a line that between you and
very good example. Now with that, do you have an example of where you received good customer service?
I was in a position, and still kind of in a position where every time I go somewhere, somebody is already upset with something. So you already know you're going into an uncomfortable situation. I deal a lot with connected devices. So there's a general lack of understanding within the certificates, so on and so forth, when a customer wants to put their Windows box on your network. So I've been those a lot of the times where I'm walking into clinical engineering, I'm talking to a network professional who knows exactly what they need to do and how to get it done. I have to go ahead and allow them to tell me that I know enough, then build my education within them to allow them to work with me, and then align the plan of action. So it's basically every one of my interactions.
Okay. Now let's do broader, where you're the customer. Does somebody have an example of maybe at a restaurant or at the grocery store where they received good customer service? Yeah. Okay. And if you've received good customer service at that restaurant, how does that make you feel? Happy. And does that make you more likely to be a repeat offender at that restaurant? Yes, exactly. On the flip side of the coin, does anybody have good examples of bad customer service?
Not my job.
Ah, I'll give a great example of that. The other night, I'm driving home from work. My wife says, "Hey, what's for dinner?" I'm like, "I'm tired, I don't know." She says the same thing, "I'm tired, I don't know. Let's order pizza." Cool. She orders pizza, I pick it up since it's on the way home. I walk into the pizza shop. There's a gentleman in front of me at the counter. I get in line, nobody at the counter. Give it a couple minutes. Gentleman comes out from behind the counter. Doesn't say a damn word. He just stands there. So my first thought is, he obviously doesn't want to be here. Now, if he doesn't want to be here, you're right, he shouldn't, but he is. Now, do I trust the food that's coming out of there, whether he prepared it or handled it or what? No, because if they're allowing this person on the front desk, what else are they allowing? So the likelihood that I'm going to go back to that pizza shop is pretty close to zero. With these examples of good and bad customer service, what it comes down to, how it makes you feel. Now, Maya Angelou probably was not talking about customer service when she said this. She was just probably talking about people in general. But it applies very well to how you make your customers feel. So good customer service in healthcare. As you stated, regular, consistent communication. We need to make sure we act on facts, not on feelings. And how we phrase things matters. So I'm talking about act on facts. Common thing that we see is a lot of pumps that drive a syringe, and the nurses are pulling the syringes out before the cycle is fully completed. So we got a lot of errors, we get a lot of pumps come upstairs. Drives us nuts. Drives the customers nuts, so the nurses in this department, because they're going, well, this isn't reliable. We keep getting these errors. We can say, I've told your department, I don't know how many times how to do this, but what does that do? That might make you feel better, but it sets up an adversarial relationship because now they feel attacked. And now the next time they have to interact with you, they're not going to be as cooperative. Not only are they going to be cooperative, probably going to go out of the way to badmouth you. So we can't necessarily phrase things in that method. What we can say is the fact that we didn't see how the nurses unloaded the syringe. We can say, hey, we're getting a lot of these that have error codes related to how the syringe is unloaded. Can we set up a time to maybe do some in-service training? Whether that means we come upstairs and do this, or whether it means we bring the vendor in to perform the on-service training. And if you couch that with, hey, we're trying to make this more reliable, that means you're looking out for their best interest. Where now it flips a little bit because they're going, oh, okay, you want us to be more reliable for us. Makes our job easier too. But the way you phrase it definitely matters on how your message can land. Also, keep in mind, when you're in front of a customer, they're the only person that matters. You might get a call from blood bank. You might get a call on Vocera from OR. Yes, you need to attend to these. And if it's a real emergency, excuse yourself, step out in the hallway or something, but don't take that call in front of, the head of that department, because now you've shown them that they are not as important as the person who just called you. So we've gone through a couple W's. Let's go through the who are your customers. Essentially, it's anyone who's not you. Everybody's going to be impacted not only by the work that you do, but how you perform it, how you get that message across. In determining who the customers are, you kind of also have to figure out the best method to talk to those customers, who the best person is. Now, I also manage a lot of the labs in the area because that's kind of my background. So I talk to a lot of the lab managers. But when you're talking to respiratory or you're out on the floors, is there like a shift supervisor you talk to? I'd say use your time during your roundings and just say, hey, when I get a repair, who's the best person to talk to? How should I communicate with them? I have some departments where all the communication has to go through that department supervisor. Right or wrong, that's how they want to run the department. They don't want you talking to the end users. They feel like their end users are too busy, the nurses are too busy. Okay, fine, let me do everything through that person. It might be a little more troublesome, but that's going to add to your goodwill bank down the road when you make sure you're talking to the right person. I'll give an example of that. Leading the field service team. We had a guy in Virginia who was out on vacation for a week. So our guy from DC would come down, take care of the Virginia customers. Because of his schedule, he couldn't make it down until later in the evening, so 4, 5, 6 o'clock. When he did that, he would go into the lab, of course, the supervisor, while your first shift people are gone, he would just interact directly with the end users. That's just what he was used to doing. And he would get the information he needed, fix the equipment, let them know what was going on, and leave. After 3 days of this, our head office got a call, and then I got a call. He's not allowed down in Virginia anymore. What do you mean? He's doing a good job. No, he's not communicating with that department supervisor who felt like all the communication needed to go through her. So he was not allowed in that hospital at all. That really hamstrung my team because I didn't have anybody much closer than Baltimore to drag all the way down to Richmond, Virginia to take care of this customer. So we need to make sure we identify those people. Now we have some departments where the manager trusts his employees, says, hey, go talk to them. They deal with it on a regular basis. We're good. I don't need to know about it. I've got other stuff to worry about. Great. That gets me closer to where the problem originated so I can talk to that person. But I won't know that unless I ask. Who here has worked in retail before? Okay. Sorry, too close to the speaker. You've probably heard the phrase about treating your customer as your best friend. Yes, no? You've not heard that. And it's probably because I'm just really, really old. But there used to be a kind of common thing about treating your customers as your best friend. I don't like that at all. And I'll tell you why. Because if my best friend comes over to my house, I'm going to say, hey, come on in, doors open, beer in the fridge, game's on. Cool. But if I treat my customers like a dinner guest, I'm going to meet them at the door. I'm going to walk them over, sit them down, ask them what they would like to drink, let them know, hey, dinner's going to be done in about 20, 25 minutes. It's a different level of attention. It's a different way of presenting with that person. So let's move on to the next W. When are we going to do this? When we get the work orders or dispatch or however it's sent to you? If this is not something that's sent down to Central and Central sends it up to you, when we get on the scene, whether that means in the department, at the nurse's station, wherever this might be. When the repair is completed, we've all heard about the ninja biomeds who just kind of show up, drop the equipment and leave. Nobody saw what happened. They just go, oh, well, that's back. Problem with that is your end users don't know if it's fixed or not. They might just say, I don't know if it's fixed. So one, they don't trust the equipment at best because they don't know if it's fixed. Also, what's likely to happen is they're going to send it right back and just say, hey, this hasn't been fixed yet. And it's going to land on your desk and you're going to say, yes, it is. I fixed the darn thing. But they don't know that. So we need to use different opportunities to showcase our ninja skills and not here. And then of course, following up a day or two later, if you get a chance to make rounds with your department, it might just be sending them an email, Teams message, phone call, however they wish to be communicated with, we're going to utilize that just for a quick follow-up. Most of the time, probably 90–95% of the time, it's not going to yield any actionable results, but we're still putting little deposits in our goodwill account because this gives the customer status. They feel like they're important to you, important enough that you're going to take time out of your day to check up on them. If you go through neuroscience, the Neuro Leadership Institute, they talk about the SCARF model, the 5 primary motivators for people, and status and certainty are the 2 big ones. So with this, you're giving that person status. You're really driving home to the primary function of their brains. Let's move on to the H. How are we going to do this? I'm going to ask questions before we start work to make sure we understand the issue. Well, why is that? Well, because if you work for an independent service organization like I do, the nurse manager probably got the message from first shift, and this is second shift. She's calling into our customer experience department. The person who's taking that call is translating their information. They're sending it to somebody to dispatch. Dispatch is typing that up and then sending you the email, and then you get the email. So this is the whole telephone game, right? We want to make sure we get information, number one, as accurately as possible so we can address this the best we can. But use this opportunity to gauge the temperature. You might get a work order that says stat. Stat for pathology is going to mean something different than stat for OR or stat out on the floor. Stat and OR probably means we got somebody on the table. Stat and pathology means, well, pathologists have gone home for the day. Can we get this taken care of by tomorrow morning? Okay, that gives me a little bit of time to work with. Now, I also work with research departments. So stat for them might be, We're starting a new study in 2 weeks. We need this up and running by then. Cool, you just created a lot of room in my schedule. I can work with 2 weeks. But by deferring to them, also, again, you're giving them that sense of status. Again, to reiterate about the being a Ninja Biomed, after repair is complete, before we leave, we want to make sure we tell somebody what's going on. You're going to say, what if nobody's available? What if it's after hours? Great. Email, Teams message, Post-it note, just something to let them know that the work was addressed. And especially if it was after hours when we took this to the nurse's station and dropped it off or what have you. Let's follow up, because maybe the nurse manager didn't get the message that it's fixed. One of the nurses just saw it was there and saw a note on it, so that's great. Put it back into service, and they didn't go any further than that with their communication. But you want to make sure that whoever opened it knows that you addressed their problem and it's fixed. Everybody good so far? Am I going too fast? No? Okay. We've addressed most of it so far, but what happens when it comes down to delays? Again, maybe parts are on back order, maybe we got to talk to the vendor, we're checking something out, okay, that checks out, great, I got to call the vendor again, let's move on to the next step. Hey, this one makes sense, this one doesn't make sense. We need to be the first to communicate. If we are the first to communicate, we're more likely to control the narrative of that whole conversation. Whereas if we wait for the department manager to say, hey, what the heck is going on with my pump, or what the heck is going on with my ventilator, we're on the back foot. Now we've got to respond. We're answering questions, we're not controlling the narrative. So not only do I got to respond, maybe it's some problem with the PO being cut. Now I've got to go chase somebody else down. What happened with that PO? Did it get cut? Yeah, okay, now I've got to call the vendor. Did you not get that PO? What PO? Shit. Now I've got to spend just as much time, if not more, to get the same answers. But now this totally changed my day, because I didn't plan for answering somebody's upset questions. If we're getting to a critical point in the conversation, it really makes a difference if we can do this face-to-face instead of in an email. I will say I've learned this lesson the hard way multiple times before it actually sunk into my tiny little brain, but it matters a lot. It really does. One example is we have a blood bank who spins down their own blood. Most hospitals do not, as I'm understanding through this process, because this is kind of new to me. We have a centrifuge that was not spinning down their blood the way it did for the past 15 years. Speed looks great, it's level, the motor mounts are in good shape. Everything looks right on it. But I still can't make it work, so I call the vendor. We bring one of their engineers out. He goes over it, does the same thing. Really can't figure out what's going on with this. Then he tells me, hey, our company isn't in the business of really marketing these to blood banks anymore. Why not? It's a centrifuge. I mean, it's a big floor-mounted centrifuge, but it's a centrifuge. Yeah, well, we're finding out that it's kind of difficult to make it work for the blood bank to spin down the way we want. And we can say that it works, you should work, but we can't say that it will work. oh, okay, so now I'm in a position where I have to go up to that department and say, we can't guarantee that we're going to fix your centrifuge, so you got to spend another $75,000 to replace this. That is definitely not a conversation that you're going to want to have via email. That is something where it's, hey, Joe, you got some time? Yeah, I'll be free in about half an hour. Great, I'll be upstairs. And I deliver that message face to face. So again, I'm the one bringing the bad news, but because I brought it to them, I'm helping you control the narrative, but because I've also done it face to face, they can get your inflection, get your tone, and it's not just, haha, yeah, spend $75,000. We good so far? Questions, thoughts, concerns? Yes, okay. So for me, ultimately what it comes down to is, thank you, Southwest, for letting me borrow your customer service strategy here. But do you customers want you to be in the business of maintaining their equipment and hoping that that makes them happy? Or do you want to be in the business of making them happy and you just happen to do that by fixing their equipment? So that's the grand summary that I have. Questions, thoughts? Yes, sir.
Given that you've been in the field of services many years, I think that you were doing, thinking that it was the best thing, but then now you're
The biggest thing for me was learning to get ahead of the message. When I was at the tissue diagnostic company, we launched a product, a very large product, H&E stainer. And as we launched it, what marketing told the sales teams, what all the account managers told their customers was, hey, we've got an average of 280 days mean time between failure. And that was important because the prior one we launched didn't do that. However, when we launched this new H&E stainer, the mean time between failure was 28 days. So every month you could guarantee that this thing was going to break down. Not only that, it was going to be down, it was going to take about 5 to 6 hours was our average time to repair once we got on the scene. So now we have a lot of upset customers who spent a lot of money on this device. And it was taking my guys out of what their usual workload was. Because now if I placed 4 of these devices in one guy's area, that's a week out of the month that he's not touching anything else out of his normal workload. So I've got these customers upset because this new stainer is breaking down all the time. All the other customers are getting upset because we have to shuffle them down to the back of the line and we're not addressing them in a method that we were used to. And so the sales team would call us constantly. Why can't you guys get this out? What's going on? Well, can't you guys fix this right? I got beat up on that a lot until it came around to the point of, I got to get in front of this. And just getting in front of that message made a world of difference as far as easing the mind of the account managers, because now they didn't feel like every time they stepped on that account that they were going to get shot at. I gave them the ammunition that they could say, hey, we know that this is a problem. This is our plan going forward, working on it. We got that information to the customers. Now there's some certainty into the customer's mind where they know that it's not reliable. They know that we know it's not reliable and that we're working on a plan to address this for them. So yeah, that was the biggest thing I needed to learn. Did that address your question? Okay. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, that's where the act on faxing kind of came from. You don't want to phrase things where it assigns blame. You don't want to phrase things where you're saying, hey, I'm trying really hard here, but our parts suck. Okay, maybe they do, and that might make me feel better in the moment because I'm defending myself. But say I just bought a Ford, and that's breaking down once a month, and I'm in the shop every month, and the mechanic says, hey, I'm trying really hard, but the parts we have suck. Okay, when I decide to trade in that car or buy another car, am I gonna buy a Ford? No, because that mechanic kept telling me how bad their parts were. Also, you don't want to assign blame to anybody, especially if it's not something that you've witnessed yourself. And even if it is something you witnessed yourself, instead of saying, hey, your operators don't know what the heck they're doing, let's say, hey, I think we've got an opportunity for improvement here. I think we've got an opportunity to make this more reliable. Can I bring in the application specialist? Or, hey, I've just watched how you people are loading the instrument. There's a better way to do it, I think, and I think it's going to work better for you. Can I demonstrate that to you? So trying to offer solutions is big, trying to maintain positive and not assign blame. Yes, sir.
So when developing like client relationships, how personal can we get? What are the limits of what you want to share?
Well, it's going to depend on your personality type, their personality type. If it's a small community hospital, if you're a very large organization, I would say keep it friendly, but you don't necessarily want to be friends, because if you're friends with somebody, it's going to, after work, it's going to be like, hey, we're going out for beers, cool, great. Hey, while you're here, can you stop down to my department? Because we're having some problems with this. Now you feel obligated to your friend to take care of this, and they want you to take care of it first thing next morning. Well, you've already got a full schedule for the next 2 days, right? So it can create conflicts if you are friends. Now, you work in close proximity with these people all the time. So it's going to happen. There are going to be people that you get along with better than others. There's going to be people that you just don't see eye to eye with. But I would say, as a general rule, keep it friendly, but not a friend. I want to add to that. When you're communicating, smile. It's a very simple act. Now, not every conversation is going to require that. Like me asking the department for $75,000 for a new centrifuge. I was up there going, hey, $75,000, guess what? Not appropriate, of course, but just in general communication, smiling creates the image in the other person that you're more trustworthy, that you're friendly to them. So it might be, hey, I'm talking to you about your whole fleet of ventilators really needs to be replaced. But if I can add a smile or at least not grumble at them while I'm doing that, okay, my message is much more likely to be received positively. What else?
Instance when I was a younger technician where I fixed the device, I came back, I reported to the nurse who had requested a repair. I said, I fixed your machine, I plugged it in, it's located here. And she said, what did you do? I started to tell her what I did. As a biomed would, not as a layman. And that afternoon, my boss called me in the office and said, so the nurse up there reported to her supervisor that she was talking down to her and made her feel stupid. Because I explained exactly what I did to fix it. He said, next time, just tell her you made an adjustment and it's working. I didn't do anything wrong. I tried to her that position, but she felt like I was using this jargon and stuff and making her feel unintelligent.
Yes.
Which was not my intent. She asked me, what did I do? And I just told her. I didn't think about
How it was going to be received.
that.
Yeah.
She didn't understand, and it made her feel small.
It does.
It wasn't my intent. I was just literally trying to give her what she asked for.
And that's a fantastic example. Thank you for bringing that up. Because as technicians, when we talk to one another about it, we automatically go to the technical end of it. That's what we're working with. That's what our mind knows. Yes. Yeah.
Things like that, my OR, and some of the other key areas advocated for me at our boards. And so I would just say that like we're open to that customer relationship with their clinical stakeholders. They bring a lot of weight in those types of meetings. And I definitely leverage those folks that haven't done that. I've had a lot of success.
Thanks. That is a fantastic example of that. And I meant to speak to that a little bit more about the word cloud, about who are our customers. It could be the C-suite. And as we find out that when it comes to contract renewal time, if we have the people in the OR and the people in pathology, and then some of the people over in ICU, they're on our side. They're lobbying to keep us. That's going to carry a heck of a lot of weight. And I'm glad that you had such a positive experience. I'm sure that had to be a weight off your shoulders to know that you've got their support. Yes, sir.
You touched on it just slightly earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying it was one of the problems. I said it was not my job.
Yeah.
I found the thing that builds the best customer relations is when you go up there and it turns out that whatever this is not your area of expertise. But instead of saying, well, that's not my job, you say, I don't work on this particular item, but I'm going to help you solve this problem. I'm going to put you in contact with the person that does this and follow up on it.
Yeah.
Because then they feel like you care. And I get told all the time, how come you're so good at fixing all our problems, but facilities and IT and all these other service groups ignore us? And I said, because I want to help you. That's my job, is to make sure you have what you need. Even if it's not my area of expertise, doesn't mean I can't put you with the people that can help you fix your problem. And then I follow up on it and say, hey, did that IT guy get with you yesterday? No, he never called me back. Let me go check with him. So then they know I'm following up. So every time I come up for, they're happy to see me. And I get asked to do a lot of things, which I have to then find the appropriate person for. But even still, it creates that, as you said, goodwill.
Yes.
Because they know I'm going to address their problem. Even if it's not something I personally can do, I'm still going to address it and help them get a solution. And that's what they're looking for. They don't want to hear it's not your job.
Right.
They don't want to hear you don't do that. They want to hear, what are you going to do to solve this issue?
Yeah.
So if you do that, even if you're redirecting it, they still look at you as he came and helped me.
Yes.
Even if I didn't personally do it, I still steered it to the right person and got it done. And I followed up on it, even though it wasn't my area. That's just something I've learned that builds a tremendous amount of goodwill.
Yes, that's a big thing. The whole, it's not my job. And technically, there's a lot of things that aren't my job.
Right.
If we want to do that.
But that's the common thing a lot of people, that's not my job. I'm trying to teach my coworker, he's a younger guy now. And he'll do that real frequently. So that's not my job. Housekeeping does that. Somebody else, I said, no, your job is to fix this customer's issue. It may be housekeeping's job.
Yeah.
But what you tell them is, let me go get someone from housekeeping and make them aware of their situation so they can fix this. And then you follow up. And he's like, oh, no. I'm like, yes, you want these people to know that we're here to help them.
Yes.
So it's a challenge sometimes for people to see that and see that it pays off later. Because like you said, when you have that goodwill, when you do have an issue, you say, hey, parts have been back ordered or delayed. Oh, it's okay. I know you're going to fix it.
Yeah.
I had a lady the other day, it was just a simple medical. She said, I've asked maintenance for a month now to put new wheels on. The wheels are wobbling and wobbling. And I looked at it and said, well, your bearings are worn out. Can you fix that? I said, well, technically, it's not really a piece of medical equipment, but yes, I can.
Yeah.
And I did. And after I did it, it took me 30, maybe 40 minutes to jack it up, take 4 wheels off, put 4 new wheels on. She said, that's it? I said, yeah. She goes, well, if I had the tools, I could have done it. I said, you had the tools and experience, you could have.
Yeah.
Why couldn't the maintenance done that? I can't answer that question, but I'm glad we got your issue resolved. Huge, tremendous goodwill with it, because now every time she sees me, she's like, my car moves so good and I don't have to run into the walls and hurt myself trying to move it. You know, I don't know why maintenance didn't. I didn't begin to tell you, and it was, but yet they'll tell them, well, that's medical equipment. No, it's not. It's a car.
All right.
Just because they put meds in it or hospital supplies in it doesn't mean it's medical. They also had to tell me one time, maintenance came to fix this refrigerator. They say it's a specialty refrigerator, it's a medical refrigerator. There's no such thing as a refrigerator. You just store meds in it. And it had to be maintained at a certain temperature for the medication.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, maintenance says they won't touch it. I'm like, no, I'm going to have it. So I again had to step in and solve the problem, even though it's not something I do. And got it worked out. But yeah, maintenance, I'm trying to say it's a specialty device that you can't fix. I'm like, come on.
Now, say with your cart problem, what's the likelihood that that one particular person is going to go back to the rest of her nurses and say,
Oh, yeah.
they're going to say, Biomed solved my problem. I don't know what the hell's the matter with maintenance.
Exactly right. Because they don't even want to call me. They'll call me first and say, hey, do you fix this Watson thing? And I'm like, actually, that's not really, well, can you talk to maintenance then? Because we need it fixed. I'll do that. I'll get in contact with them. I send their boss and them an email, their supervisor, and say, hey, were you aware that this problem existed? And if not, can you please send somebody there to check it? And then again, like I said, I follow up. See that, did somebody come and check their thing?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, they never showed. Okay, I'll go back. And if I have to, I escalate. I mean, I don't want to, but if they're not getting a response,
Yeah.
I don't just go, well, I did my part. I turned it over to them, they should do it. I follow up and make sure. Because I took responsibility for it.
Yeah.
And they expect me to give them some results.
Yeah.
And like I said, when I do, huge goodwill.
It's,
They're friendly to me. They're not friendly to the maintenance guy.
yeah.
Because
No.
They don't get any customer service.
No. Now, you mentioned one thing in there is that because they don't want to talk to maintenance because maintenance treats them so terrible, they won't even tell them about it.
No.
Imagine if that happened with our department, that they didn't like us so much, that they're just going to put a stack of pumps in the corner and not even tell us about it. That could be a problem. That could be a big problem, especially if they have a big influx of patients at one time. Now they've got a stack of pumps they can't use. It's not fixed because they didn't let us know about it, and they didn't let us know about it because they didn't want to talk to us.
I also, I like to use email
Okay.
as communication. We have a very antiquated work order system. They have no access to it. What they used to do was call or leave a message on the phone. And if I'm not in the office, it may be hours before I find out there's a phone message about it. But if they send me an email, I can get it more frequently. And it gives me a document response.
Yes,
And I have the person's name, time, date, all that information I'm gonna want anyway. It's already there.
right. And that's going to come in helpful if there's a protracted issue going on.
Yes. It gives me a good follow-up, so good feedback.
Yeah,
And that's another thing I'm teaching my new technician is make sure as soon as you get the email, answer, give them an ETA, give them an estimate, let them know you're involved. Then when you do go to the store to get the device, see if you can find the person that sent the email. If you can't, at least tell somebody on the staff, hey, I'm here because Sally told me you can get this. I'm taking it to the shop to repair it. I'll bring it back as soon as possible. Now they know on the floor. When he gets back to the shop, so give him an update. You're not going to have it done within ETA, give them an update. Tell them why. We're waiting on parts or there was a delay or whatever. Because that constant feedback, again, makes them, like you said, they feel important.
yes,
You're addressing an issue, you're paying attention to me, you're helping me solve my problem. And then when you finally finalize it, they get back to the department, that person's not there, you still tell somebody. So say, hey, let Sally know I brought her piece of equipment, it's fixed. Back to the department and send a final email to Sally, the person who initiated, and say, your device was completed, I turned it over to this person, put it in this area, so they know where to find it later. And that eliminates all your miscommunications, people getting frustrated, people getting angry. It has that chain of custody, basically, that you walk from the beginning to the end, and now it's completed.
no,
And like I said, it makes them feel like you truly care about them and you're truly their benefit, not how to buy an ant guy again, see if he'll come fix something. Now, they're happy with you.
good. And I'm sure, as you found out in field service, having the customers be happy when you show up makes a world of difference versus them being argumentative the minute you walk in the door. But that's a great example. Thank you.